Welcome back, everybody. I'm Jerry, and as you can see, this is part 7 of the free agent grades, and the drinking game is still going on. I am the first YouTuber to have a drinking game along with my free agent grades, and I can guarantee you that wasn't able to find any. So, drinking game is what it says on the screen. Drink every time Jerry says a little too much money, because there have been a lot of people that, in my opinion, being paid a little bit too much money. Now, I also understand it's understandable because the cap went up 30 million from last year, which is the highest ever. So all of that is understandable. Um, Thank you for watching. We've been getting a great amount of views, and likes are picking up after the last video, as well as let's get some subscribers, huh? I want 100 by April. We're almost halfway through March, and I'm at 87 or something. So let's get to 100. This should be very easy. We're having like 200-300 people watching every video. Somebody subscribe, please. I would appreciate it. Let's get on to one of my favorite players. Being a Chicago Bears fan, Darnell Mooney. Massive Darnell Mooney fan. If you just look up a Darnell Mooney highlight reel, it looks like a career highlight reel because of the amount of amazing plays this guy has made. There was a viral clip a few years ago of him. I said a few years ago of him burning Jalen Ramsey, who, if you remember a few years ago, he was the guy as far as cornerback goes. So Darnell Mooney's a great receiver that hasn't gotten enough opportunity in these past couple years because Justin Fields is a one-read quarterback and was not giving him the targets he deserved. When Darnell Mooney had his 1,000-yard season, 1,000-yard season Darnell Mooney had, he got like 140 targets and he had a great season. It was very good. And then next season, he did get injured, and Justin just didn't really see him after that. And then DJ Moore came in and basically just took all the receptions, and Darnell Mooney was no more. So I actually think 13 million is a very fair value. You could look at his numbers over the past years and go, that is a huge overpay, but it is not. And especially being a wide receiver too to Drake London, with Kirk Cousins being the quarterback, I mean, you can call me crazy, but like I think Darnell Mooney's probably better than Jordan Addison, who was the wide receiver two in Minnesota. And if you look at their stats, for their first year, very comparable. Now, Jordan Addison could do a lot better. I don't think he will anymore now that Kirk's gone. And he had the benefit of Justin Jefferson getting injured. But I think Darnell Mooney's a great receiver. And now that he's going to be getting targets, hopefully by Kirk Cousins, he should have another great season. He's also a very good run blocker. And when you have all the great running backs that the Falcons have in Bijan Robinson, Cordero Patterson, and there's another guy, Tyler Algier, and the GM is Ryan Pace, who drafted Darnell Mooney. So I think it's a great fit, and it's a B+. I'm going to stop talking about Darnell Mooney and move on to Derrick Henry, who is just basically a movie character as far as NFL players go. 6'3", 250, runs over or stiff arms anybody, and now he's in the same backfield as the best rushing quarterback. I think the stat was since 2018, Derrick Henry absolutely dominates by like over 1,000 yards, many touchdowns to running back two since 2018. Well, Lamar Jackson running the ball does the same exact thing. So it's going to be very scary, well deserving, and an A+. $8 million a year is just criminal. And it's only 2 years, which is perfect. I think he's only guaranteed 9, which is basically just most of the first year and a little bit of the second year. I mean, this is just an absolute steal for the Ravens, and the Ravens are going to be really scared. I just can't believe, the Ravens might be my favorite AFC team next year. Like I said, I'm a Bears fan, so I always usually have an AFC team, and it's been the Titans, who have made some good signings. But, geez, that's going to be nuts with Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson in the backfield. So they get an A+. Nothing else, nothing lower could be correct. Patrick Queen gets an A. I think this is good value, especially with the cap space going up. We just saw Roquan Smith, who is one of the best linebackers in the league, but we just saw him, a year ago, get paid $20 million a year. Now Patrick Queen, who was doing it over there and was a nice, counterpiece to Patrick Queen, Patrick Queen's only getting 13 million a year. And I still think he has an effect on the team. I think you're going to see a light drop off. Roquan Smith can handle a lot himself. So I think, it was okay for the Ravens to get rid of him, but as a big need for the Steelers, who haven't really had their destined number one great middle linebacker since Ryan Shazier, I don't know if Patrick Queen can quite be that yet, but he definitely has the ability to. So getting him at $13.67 million in a year where the cap space went up $30 million, I think this is a great deal and deserves an A. So Patrick Queen gets an A to the Steelers for $13.67 a year. Drew Lock, oddly enough, looking like Bo Burnham in this picture. He gets an A minus, $5 million a year. We talked about the other quarterbacks. Let's talk about Tyrod Taylor, who left to go to the Jets. I think Drew Lock, you could probably make an argument that he's better, and he got paid almost half as much as Tyrod Taylor. You look at Sam Darnold, who I think Drew Lock is as good as, could potentially be better. Got paid $10 million. I still like Gardner Minshew over Drew Lock, but for $5 million, for less than half the cost, I would probably take Drew Lock for $5 million over Gardner Minshew for 12.5. Even though I believe Gardner Minshew's a starting caliber quarterback, so that would be a tough argument to make. But I think the value there is just too big, and if you want to move on from Daniel Jones, I can't confidently tell you that Drew Lock is going to be the answer, but I can tell you that, like, if Daniel Jones doesn't work out and then Drew Lock comes in and it does work out, I feel like that is a good gauge of what you should be doing with Daniel Jones, because if Drew Lock can make it happen and Daniel Jones can't, that kind of solidifies that you need to move on from Daniel Jones. So I really like this signing. It's just 1 year, $5 million, A minus. I mean, a great signing for the Giants. Gerald Everett, another A. A lot of great grades in this video. It's been on the up. Shane Waldron, new offensive coordinator of the Chicago Bears, ran more 21 personnel, which if you're not familiar, the 2 in 21 stands for 2 tight ends. 1 stands for running back. That would mean there's 3 receivers. 2 receivers. There's 5 of the total. So it'd be 2 wide receivers, 2 tight ends, 1 running back. 11 personnels, 1 tight end, 1 running back. There would be 3 receivers, so on and so forth. But because they run the most 21 personnel, Gerald Everett, in my opinion, should be a starting tight end on most teams. Not most teams, but I would say half the teams. He would probably be the number 1 tight end, and the Bears just got him for $6 million a year, and he is a weapon as far as being a receiving threat. You can talk about the Bears, how they don't have a lot of bigger targets other than Cole Kmet. Gerald Everett offers that, and because he's not going to be the greatest blocker, would it be wrong to line him up at wide receiver? Like, what if, Bears in the past have liked to run the ball a lot. I don't know if that's going to be true with Shane Waldron, but why not put DJ Moore, Gerald Everett, Cole Kmet, and then a running back on the field, and I guess you're probably putting a third, another running back or another tight end or a gadget player like Velus Jones, who's still on the roster. I just love the signing for $6 million. I think it's a phenomenal deal. He's making less than half of what Cole Kmet is making, the number 1. I don't think Gerald Everett's near as good, but for half the price, with how the market's up right now, I think it's a huge signing for the Chicago Bears. A grade for a team that runs mostly 21 personnel. No brainer, that's an A. Dante Fowler Jr. is just your typical another Commanders signing from the Cowboys. And Dante Fowler Jr. I put pro down there. It's a projected payment. We don't actually have the exact value right now, but I'm giving it a B minus because it's just another Cowboy going to the Commanders to be with Dan Quinn and to be familiar with the defense. I mean, a lot of the defense at this point is Dan Quinn and not superstars, but great players that probably haven't had their full potential unlocked because of their defensive coordinators or because of just the situation they're in. Like Frankie Louvu with the Panthers, I think was a phenomenal signing, especially for Dan Quinn. I said that they could utilize him like Micah Parsons, and he's probably more on the coverage linebacker side. Like Micah Parsons, everybody was kind of ranting and raving because he needed more pass rush snaps, and he was very good at it, but they were dropping him into coverage. I think you could make the argument that Frankie Louvu really should be a pass coverage linebacker that has the ability to pass rush and even run stop. So I think he's a little bit on the opposite end, but at least can fill that role. And Dante Fowler and Dorrance Armstrong can really fill the edge rusher, the true edge rusher role, and make plays. So I like what I see there. You basically just get two of the edge rushers aside from Micah Parsons that were playing for the Cowboys onto the Commanders. So great signing for Dan Quinn, but only a B minus. It's just tough to grade it because we don't have an official value, but I wanted to include it just to show how much Cowboys to Commanders. We've had Kenny Moore as a B minus. I really love the signing. Kenny Moore's been great at his position, and he's staying with the Colts, which to me holds value. I think you could make an argument that this is a B or a B plus grade very easily. I just 3-year, $30 million, $10 million a year is now the highest paid nickel cornerback in the league, and I can't confidently say that he's worth that. So that's the reason it's a B minus. Like I said, you could talk me into a B or a B plus because I really do like the signing. I just think the money is a little high, and I think it's also, I guess in my personal opinion, I'm just going based on the averages and based on what corners are making. But I think the slot cornerback is a very underappreciated position because you're typically, you might have to blitz. You might have to, make a big play tackling a running back, and you deal with a lot more other than just being a cornerback. So I think it's an underappreciated position. And if I was truly grading it on what I believed the ability that it took, and I wasn't basing it along the other market and the scheme fit and everything, this is probably very easily a B plus or an A minus. But just for what the value is around the league, I can't confidently say that Kenny Moore is worth being the highest paid slot corner in the league. So he just gets a B minus. Like I said, I could be talked into a higher grade, but that's just what I'm giving him. Josh Uche, $3 million. I had to Google this like 3 different times because I don't think Josh Uche is a really great player, but he can start or get a majority reps for the Patriots, and only $3 million for an edge rusher is just stupid in this market. I mean, you're seeing veterans towards the end of the year who have kind of fallen off getting like $6-7 million. So to keep a guy who's not aged out and staying part of the same team in that position, it's a B plus for me for only $3 million. Probably a prove it year. Would definitely get a bigger contract if he can have some success. I want to say Josh Uche, not last year, but the year before, had like 11 and a half sacks and like 7 tackles for a loss. And that was only playing in 15 games, starting in none of them. He didn't start a single game, but because of the reps that he got. So for $3 million, it's just a steal. So I like the Josh Uche signing. He sticks around. It's an insanely cheap deal. He gets a B plus. No ifs, ands, or buts. Asan Robinson, I didn't really understand this. This is definitely an overpay. I think they paid him a little bit too much money. There's opportunity to drink. Hasn't been many this game. But going to the Panthers, they need somebody there, but he really hasn't panned out. He really hasn't done very well. And to me, he hasn't earned $7.5 million. They're giving him the opportunity. But the Panthers have gotten rid of all their counterparts that would help assist Asan Robinson and elevate him to the level that he probably could be. So now that Frankie Louvu's gone, who can rush the passer, and Brian Burns, who is one of the best in the league, and at the very least, one of the most athletic, they're both gone now. So Asan Robinson to me doesn't really, it fills a need for sure, but it was at the expense of losing those really talented players that you had. And it's just $7.5 million is way too much money for what you're getting out of them. So just another bad signing for the Panthers. The only reason it really gets a C is because they filled a need. And, he's probably one of the better options available, but it's still not a great option. I think if we were grading the Panthers offseason, their offseason grade would probably be an F, just because of the horrible trades that they've made and and the overpays on the signings. And I've given some decent grades for them signing offensive linemen, but that's just because it's a huge need, and none of them have blown me away. So C for Asan Robinson, $7.5 million a year is just too much. Devonte Parker gets a B. He's going to be a wide receiver 3, and he's being paid $4.69 million for the 1 year. I think the last time that he had success, you would probably say the Dolphins, and he was good on the Dolphins. It's just he's going there to be a wide receiver 3, and that makes an absolute killer offense. So now we have Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, and Devonte Parker, and Dallas Goedert. They're all in the same offense, and the offensive line is still pretty good. Losing Kelsey is a big loss. But you've still got all the other guys that are there. Lane Johnson's still there. Jordan Mailata. Landon Dickerson's re-signs for too much money, in my opinion, but he re-signs. They're going to have to figure out center. But that offense is insane, and if they don't have success, it's definitely down to coaching at that point. But I think their defense is really what's going to need help. But we're not talking about the Eagles today. We're talking about the grade, which is a B for the Eagles, getting a good deal on a guy who hasn't really produced recently, but has produced in the past, and now just has to be a wide receiver 3. And I think he's very worthy of a wide receiver 3. And I think $4.69 million is a little less. Now this was near being an A+. Who knows who Keyshawn, spelled in the stupidest way possible. Nobody should spell Keyshawn that way. And Keyshawn, I'd like to personally apologize to your parents for spelling your name in such a stupid fashion. But Keyshawn Nixon, the last 2 seasons has led the league in kick return yards, and last year had 80 combined tackles at cornerback. Can I interest you in that? I can. 3-year, $18 million is a phenomenal deal for the production that he's had at the position, and I don't think people understand how valuable it is to have so successful corner last year when he needed to be, but also one of the better returners in the league. So special teams is kind of being faded out. I don't like it, and it needs to be recognized, and so that's why he gets an A, because let's just say he had 80 tackles. I think he had 1 interception. I don't know if he forced a fumble or recovered any or didn't much there. But he's still Jair Alexander's still there. The other guys, I'm drawing a blank right now. But I think he's the 3rd or the 4th corner on the roster. But he still had 80 combined tackles, which is insane for a corner. That's not normal. And then was the best kick returner. So add that all up. I think it's huge for Keyshawn Nixon. $6 million a year I think is low for how much value he provides, and he ends up getting an A for me, re-signing with the Packers. Huge re-signing for them. Jeremy Chinn being the last one out of SIU, fairly local to me. I had some friends that go there. Everybody loves Jeremy Chinn. And 1 year, $5 million. If you would have told me when he came out of college that his first contract was going to be a 1 year, $5 million deal, I'd tell you you're crazy, because Jeremy Chinn, he's huge. He's a nephew of Steve Atwater, who's an NFL legend, which I don't think that really should increase his value, but he does kind of play that style where he's not necessarily going to be the greatest in coverage, but he is going to lay the boom when necessary and be very good in run defense while being able to cover. Again, I guess that would be one of his negatives there, but for only $5 million with the amount of other weapons that they've signed in this defense, and I'm very interested to see how Dan Quinn is going to be able to use him in the defense. So I think for $5 million, I really should have put this as like an A- or an A, because for the price, I think this is a huge signing. It's kind of a prove it year. All right, Jeremy Chinn, come in. Hello, nice to meet you. I'm Dan Quinn. I'm going to show you how we play football here in Washington. So I really like this signing. Again, I'd probably change it. I'm kind of talking myself into an A- here, but I really like the signing for Dan Quinn and the Commanders, and Jeremy Chinn gets a B+. So let me know what you think of all my grades down below in the comments. Like the video if you liked it. Subscribe. We're trying to reach 100 subscribers before April, which we only have a couple more weeks here. So let's make it happen. Thank you for watching and have a great day.